This video looks at introducing terms such as acute, obtuse and right angle and looking at some different shapes. So let's start by looking at Cambridge Primary Mathematics Toolbox. We have a floating toolbar here and it contains the toolboxes. So there's the fractions toolbox and we're going to look at shape and space today. So I'm going to start by pulling out some shapes. We're going to start with a square and we're going to look at a triangle. And I can make these bigger or smaller so they look about the same size. There we go. So we make it smaller, larger as we wish. Just pull on the handles. And we're going to look at a hexagon. So there's my hexagon. And we're going to talk about the angles that these shapes make. So we're going to look at ways of describing the angles. Now we're going to start with the square and we're going to look at its corners, which we commonly call square corners. And we can ask our pupils to look around the room and see how many square corners they can spot and where they can see them. The next shape, the triangle, if we look at it, has angles which are smaller than the square corner. You can see that it fits into the square corner, so it's smaller than the square corner. So we can ask the pupils again to look around the room and see if they can spot any angles that are smaller than a square corner. The hexagon, if we move that across, we can see that its corners, or angles, are in fact bigger than the square corner. So we can look round and see if we can see any corners that are bigger than a square corner. Now we need to use technical terms to describe bigger than or smaller than a square corner. We can sometimes call a square corner a quarter turn, and you can explain to pupils when you come to actually measuring angles why this is so. But for the moment I'm just looking at acute, obtuse and right angle. So on the next page I'm going to show you how to get writing and angles onto the screen. So in the shape and space toolbox, let's just pull out the angle. I'm going to move it to the centre of the screen and I'm just going to make the arms the same length, and as you can see I can describe any type of angle, acute, obtuse, reflex, right angle that I wish to. So let's just put in an acute angle and let's put in some writing. Now to type text, click on the pen tool, click on the T for type and put an angle smaller than a square corner is called an acute angle. If I want to break this up a bit, so let's say I want to break it about here, put in a carriage return. If you lose the text control, just double click it and it'll come back. So just put in the return and I can now click away from it, and using my movement arrow or select tool I can move the writing to where I want it to be. So you can easily prepare a page that looks like this. So angles in a square corner are a quarter turn, also called a right angle. Angles less than a quarter turn are called acute angles, and angles greater than a quarter turn are called obtuse angles. On the next page I've used my clip art, which is here. You'll see clip art, and if I just pull it up you can see that I can put in animals, board games, dice, dominoes, shapes, etc. So I've just used that tool to pull in some shapes, and you can get them to write down how many of each type of angle each shape has, and then come up to the board and point them out.